Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Linda Golick coming to you with another segment of our Mental Health Moments. So pleased to have all of you here today. I am the Health and Wellbeing Consultant with Bellin Health. And as usual, I am joined with our behavioral health therapist, Charles Latour. Charles, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you, Linda. How are you doing?
Doing great, doing great. We have a
Good.
very special edition of our mental health moments today. I am really pleased to welcome our special guest, Natalie Ficklin-Holliday. Natalie is connected to Bellin from years ago. She currently lives in Utah now, but she's here to share her story today. So I want to frame us up a little bit. This month's Lifesaver message was actually about gratitude and the power of gratitude and how we can practice that in our lives. So Charles, I guess I just want to start with you and help us understand maybe that power of gratitude and why that really can change us.
Yeah, it's a great place to start when we talk about this whole time of year. We have Thanksgiving coming up, a holiday of gratitude, gratefulness, Thanksgiving, right? And it's to me, this word gratitude is really amazing. It really has this taste of and quality of grace, gracefulness, which was one of the themes that we've had ongoing. But the term really has come into more prominence lately. A group out at the University of Pennsylvania, the Applied Psychology Program, Positive Psychology Program, has done a lot of studying this concept of gratitude. And I'll give you a couple examples. One in which they gave people gratitude exercises to do, and working with gratitude found it to be as helpful or even more clinically beneficial than antidepressants to impacting clinical depression. As far as people not experiencing a clinical illness of some sort or diagnosis, straight life satisfaction, people who are engaged in gratitude exercises or even a daily gratitude journal that they were involved in or gratitude statements had greater life satisfaction than those who are not utilizing this skill or strategy. So it's pretty amazing, the whole concept of it and what gratitude is all about. And sometimes it's as minimal as appropriate thank yous. Sometimes it's as definitive as writing a thank you note to someone, like even a first grade teacher, someone that you would like to thank for something that they may not even know that they have done or impacted, and going back to do that has been incredibly helpful and rewarding. So not only to the person receiving the thank you, that's amazing enough to get that gratitude coming your way, but giving it. When people give gratitude, they feel so much better. And it's this concept of paying it forward. When I receive it, guess what? I'm more likely to give it. So I now look for opportunities to be grateful for. So I want to say one more thing about it. It kind of creates this neural pathway process. It primes our brains to be, and our brains actually have structural changes that occur from it. And neural pathways that we do two things. One, we're more attuned to opportunities to be grateful. And then secondly, we're more quick to act on it. Our cognitive pathways change and our psychosocial pathways change. So over time, we are experiencing more and more gratitude in our lives and in our world than if we weren't attuned to these gratitude opportunities in the first place, to then create opportunities for it to happen more and more and more. I like this one quote from a song called Photograph. And the quote is, "When I look back at my ordinary life, I see so much magic, though I missed it at the time." I think of gratitude as this way that when we are priming our brain to think in this way in the way of gratitude, we are framing ourselves in a way that we can see things that we otherwise would have missed. And it creates a more positive and healthy emotional and psychological mindset for us than had we not orchestrated our minds in this way of interpreting our experiences as those that we can be grateful for. Because nothing is either 100%, I shouldn't say nothing, few things are either 100% fabulous or 100% terrible. It's in the coding and the interpretation that we use with it. And when we are mindfully grateful, we have a more positive interpretation of our life experiences, and that continues to perpetuate. So that's the beauty of what we know about the science of gratitude. And today we have a great person joining us to talk about a life experience that led down to the pathway of gratitude. So with that, I will pause and Linda, turn it back over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. I love the idea of some of the science behind all of that and helping us understand the true power of all of that. And so to give us just an incredible story today, we have Natalie Ficklin-Holliday with us today. And Natalie's story is not only a great one of survival, but the gratitude that came because of the survival. So Natalie, I will pass it over to you.
Okay, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to tell a story that it seems every time I tell it, which I tell it almost every day, um, it reminds me again of um, of the beauty of life um, and the um, the blessing of being alive and the ability to express gratitude to many people and many entities um, for uh, an experience that started out pretty rough but has ended up changing my life. Um, 2 years ago today, actually, um, I was brought to Timpanogos Hospital, which is where I am right now. I'm employed now by Timpanogos Hospital in Orem, Utah. It's part of the HCA hospital system. And 2 years ago today, I was brought here after having been found suffering some pretty violent seizures at home. And the experiences that occurred here, which I will get to in just a moment, though at the time were pretty dramatic, changed my life in every single way for the good. I'll kind of start with a little bit of a backstory. In 2019, April of 2019, I decided that I needed to make a change in my life. I had lived in Wisconsin and really enjoyed cheese and had gotten myself into a situation where I was overweight and decided that I wanted a better quality of life. And so I chose to do some research on weight loss surgery. I did go ahead and do a gastric sleeve surgery. And that in and of itself was a life-changing decision, just by virtue of the fact that the quality of my life is now so much better in spite of some difficulty that I had to go through to get here. So I had gastric sleeve surgery in Mexico, and I know everyone kind of raises their eyebrows a little bit at that. However, the insurance that I had at the time wouldn't allow for me to have that procedure covered here in the United States. So I spent 9 months doing research about a particular surgeon and a particular facility, and felt really confident about the experience that I was going to undertake. And I did have excellent care and treatment, and none of the subsequent issues that I have or that I had had are attributed to um, going to Mexico to have this surgical procedure. 2 weeks after I came home um, from Mexico, I uh, started feeling extremely nauseated, a nausea like I've never experienced before. And I could not eat anything. Nothing would go down. And I had the constant feeling of having to retch all the time. And I thought, well, this is probably just part of that process. I'll keep plugging away and following the diet, the liquid diet step of this procedure, and then it will get better. It didn't get better. In fact, it persisted and became a real concern. One day after work, I thought, I'm not feeling well. I'm probably pretty dehydrated. I'm going to go to the hospital and and have an IV and get rehydrated. So I went to a hospital near my work in a different city from where I live, and uh, they took me into the triage area of the emergency room and put on the EKG pads. And a few minutes went by, and they called a code blue because everything on my EKG indicated that I was in the midst of having a heart attack, and I didn't feel like I was having a heart attack. So everyone came rushing in. They were taking off my jewelry, getting ready to take me up to the cath lab to see if there was indeed a blockage. They had also taken a blood sample, and they hurried and ran through that. And before they took me to the cath lab, they came back and they said, okay, it doesn't appear that you're really having a heart attack, but we do show that you are severely hypokalemic, that your potassium levels are dangerously low. And the potassium, as I hope you all know as medical professionals, can regulate and affect your heart muscle as well as the other muscles in your body. So I was admitted to the hospital. I was put on a potassium drip. I was there for several days because they wanted to try and figure out why I was having this this situation where I could not eat and this severe nausea. I had my gallbladder removed. They went in and did an endoscope. They couldn't see anything wrong. They were able to raise my potassium and sent me home. And I was still experiencing the uh, the severe nausea and inability to eat. I was in and out of that particular hospital at least 7 times from April to October, getting infusions of potassium. They tried to give me an NG tube for nutrition, and because it went down and kind of passed through that epiglottal area and I already had a gag reflex, it just wasn't working for me. I had subsequent endoscopes, and they could not make a definitive diagnosis of what the issue was. So I was sent home with a PICC line and a potassium drip to be administered every day at home. I was sent home with a home healthcare nurse, and that was how I thought I was going to live my life. I didn't see a solution to this issue. So as I met with my home health care nurse, she said, there is a surgeon that you need to get a hold of. His name is Dr. Richard Rasmussen in Provo, Utah, and he will know what to do. So I called his office and explained the circumstances. Dr. Rasmussen is a general and trauma surgeon who also specializes in bariatric surgery. And his office said, yes, he will see you. There was a concern because I had had my initial surgery in Mexico, but eventually they relented and said, yes, he will see you. However, he's going to be out of town for 3 weeks. And so he won't be able to see you until November the 19th. And this was early November. And I did not think I would be alive by November 19th. And I kind of thought to myself, oh, here's this surgeon, he's going to be on vacation at some beach and I'm going to die. And so I went and saw a gastroenterologist and I said, I've got to be kept alive nutritionally. I'm not receiving any nutrition at all. And I need something other than just potassium to keep me alive. So this particular gastroenterologist put me on a TPN to run right through my PICC line. And unfortunately, and I don't know if it's because they couldn't believe that I hadn't eaten anything for 6 months, but that was not a gradual influx of TPN, of the vitamins and minerals. It was just shot right 24 hours a day right into my PICC line. And about 3 days later, I went into refeeding syndrome. For those of you who might not know what that is, it's similar to what the US soldiers going in to liberate concentration camps in World War II and saw these poor, emaciated, starving prisoners, and they gave them their rations and candy bars, and they just wanted to help these poor starving people. And unfortunately, that sudden influx of food and nutrition for many of these severely malnourished prisoners, it actually killed them. And that is what happened to me. My son and my mother found me in the middle of these seizures, and I was brought to Timpanogos Hospital, which was not the hospital that I had been going to all summer. I think that had I been awake and alert, I would have said, take me to this other hospital. It's a little farther away, but it's in my insurance network. They know me there, and that's where I want to be treated. But instead, they brought me to Timpanogos, which was closer to my home. And that's where I ended up. From this point on, I remember nothing, nothing for about 2 weeks. So the information that I have to give you comes from my family and from the nurses and doctors who treated me once they brought me into the hospital. They were able to get my seizures under control. They knew that there was something going on with my heart, so they admitted me to the cardiac ICU. They felt that I was stable enough to send my 2 children home. I have 23-year-old twins, John and Lacey, and I am a single mother and raised them as a single mother for their entire life. And so they sent them home to get some rest, and they said, we'll let you know if anything changes. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, so 2 years tomorrow, I went into Torsades and VTAC and went into a series over 14 hours of repeated cardiac arrest. They performed CPR on me and used the AED paddles on me 33 times over a 14-hour period. And to this day, knowing a little bit more about how things operate in a hospital system, I know that that is kind of an anomaly. Although I did have a shockable rhythm, I asked one of the nurses after I was aware of what happened, how long, given my identical circumstances, how long do you usually give a patient like me before you just decide that her heart has had enough? And she kind of didn't want to say, but she said usually 20 to 30 minutes. But this group of heroes worked on me for 14 hours and kept shocking me and bringing me back. And I guess every time they brought me back, I was awake and alert enough to say, please don't let me die, because my children still needed me. I didn't want them to be orphaned. So Dr. Alan Naylor and Dr. Neil Rosenberg, who is the intensivist and the hospitalist in the hospital, went out and cried with my children and promised them that they would keep working on me because I was fighting. It's important for me to say as many names as I can to acknowledge the heroism and the courage and the efforts that these people went through to save my life. So I made it through the night. I had a rough couple of days over the next few days. And then Dr. David Wong, a cardiologist, inserted an internal defibrillator, which I have and I love. I love that it's there. And I made it through that rough bump. Some of the ways that that they treated me are a little more complicated, and I don't have enough medical knowledge to really explain well what they did to get me out of that dangerous heart rhythm, but whatever they did, it worked. So a few days later, well, about a week later, Dr. Richard Rasmussen, the surgeon who I was recommended to see, who I thought was on vacation, came into my hospital room, and I was awake and alert at that time. I hadn't remembered anything for about 2 weeks, but I was awake enough for him to say, I will take you and I will operate. I can't promise that I will be able to identify your situation, but I will do my best. So I went into surgery. I came out of surgery. I had a J tube inserted into my belly because I was going to be on tube feeds for a little while. And then Dr. Rasmussen came to my room and explained to me what happened during that procedure. He kind of laughed and said, you know, Natalie, I wasn't on vacation. Said, we've kind of joked about that, but I want to tell you exactly what has transpired. He said, I was actually in Las Vegas at an obesity seminar, And at that seminar, I was able to choose a course or a specialty or a new procedure that I wanted to learn more about. And he said, I chose a procedure that I knew I would never use because they don't do that particular procedure in the United States. It was developed by two surgeons in South America, and yet I chose to learn more about that procedure. He said, I felt guilty the entire time because I thought I was just wasting my time. But I learned about this new procedure and technology, and when I came home and saw the turn that your health had taken, I was able to get the necessary equipment. And also, had you been at any other hospital in the region, including the hospital where he primarily practiced, which was in a completely different hospital system than Timpanogos, he had privileges here. He said, had you been anywhere else, I would not have been able to use this technology because Timpanogos was the only hospital that had the corresponding technology that I could use this equipment and was able to perform this procedure. He said, I was able to go in and see a 3D view of your abdominal area. I was able to identify through that 3D view that you had a significant stricture, which for those of you who may not know, the top of my teeny stomach and the bottom of my stomach had come together and formed a dam. So nothing could get past there. You also had a hernia, and then the staple line where in my initial weight loss surgery, they remove 85% of your stomach and then use titanium staples to seal the rest of your stomach. But those staple lines had curled in on themselves. And he said through a regular endoscope and the other surgical procedures that you had, they could not see from that bird's eye view, but I could see using this new technology from a 3D perspective and was able to identify these issues. He said, so I redid everything and hopefully this will solve your problem. But you'll need to be on the feeding tube for a little while to build up your strength and give you the nutrients that you need. And let's cross our fingers. I don't want to get very melodramatic or too religious, but I am a person of faith. And I know that Dr. Rasmussen was a person of faith, and our eyes met. And we both knew that that course that he felt compelled and inspired to take was the only thing that would have saved my life, and that he did not waste his time. 3 days later, I was in my hospital room and I was able to eat hospital mashed potatoes, the first thing I'd eaten in 6 months, and I didn't vomit. They're serving mashed potatoes here at my hospital today. I was sent home to recover and go through physical therapy, learn to walk up the stairs again. It took about a year for me to get cleared to go back to work. And at the time I was working at a tech company that did medical education and certification for ACLS, PALS, and things like that. And I thought, I cannot go back to sitting behind a desk. I have to figure out why my life, the purpose for my life, because I was given another chance, 33 chances to do something different, to make a difference. We were right in the middle of COVID at this time. There were nights when I did suffer from anxiety because I thought, gosh, I could close my eyes and never open them again. That experience of knowing that you were clinically dead and that you didn't know it or wasn't prepared is a very surreal feeling. But I knew that the hospital, Timpanogos Hospital, was my safe place. So there were several times during that summer of my recovery where I ended up sitting in the parking lot, looking up at the second floor ICU windows and wondering if my people were there. I knew none of them. I would not have been able to identify any of them if I had seen them on the street because I couldn't remember anything. But I knew they were there. And I worried about them. So I decided I was going to change my life, change my career, and I was going to do something that mattered. And so I masked up and I came down to the hospital and I asked the ED director if I could have a job. And I didn't care what I did. I didn't care if I was a housekeeper or did the dishes. I needed to be with these people and I needed to meet these people and help them do the work that they do in any way. And he looked through my resume and he said, well, and he didn't know who I was. He looked through my resume and he said, well, you've got a year here where you haven't worked. Do you want to tell me about that? And I started to tear up a little bit and I took my mask down and I said, I don't know if you know me, but I was a patient. And all of a sudden I could see the recognition in his eyes and he knew who I was. And he said, you shouldn't have walked out of this hospital. We knew that you did leave the hospital eventually, but we didn't think that you would have any quality of life. And yet here you are and you're asking to be a part of our team. He said, we need to take a walk. And he took me up to the ICU unit where I met David Gonzalez, the young nurse who the whole time I was there, thought was a terrorist. I was kind of out of my mind. I had a British accent, apparently, and the Queen was my best friend, and David was a terrorist. But he was the young man who shocked me 33 times. And I met Randy, whose muscles weren't quite big enough. I wanted someone musclier to work with me. Poor guy. I met Katrina, who was the first person to lay hands on me. I met Keith. I met William. I met Dr. Rosenberg, Dr. Naylor, who made some very risky decisions. And I was able to thank them. And then I was given a job. I accepted a job as a COVID tester, and then as a COVID screener, and then recently a new job was created for me here at the hospital to be the patient advocate. so that I can go and visit with patients and family members. And if necessary, share with them the experiences that I had, to give them the confidence that the people that are working with them are the very best. And so my life changed professionally, but more significantly, my life changed spiritually. My gratitude toward my God is something that is almost painful for me to even talk about. My gratitude for life. There are times when the wind will blow a certain way across my face, and it takes my breath away. And it also gave me an opportunity to make sure that people in my life, some very small interactions, that they knew that they were an important part of who I am and my story. So I was not only able to thank the doctors and nurses, but I was able to start visiting friends, childhood friends, teachers that I had had. I recently came back to Wisconsin, which I consider home, and I was able to meet with dozens of people. Dr. Rob Anderson and Jody Anderson. I went to their home to let them know that they are a part of my soul, that they've played a part in my story, and that I'm grateful for them. I also have had opportunities to make much needed apologies. I had to apologize to 4 boys that I treated badly when I was dating them in college. The experience that I had 2 years ago today is the best thing that ever happened to me. My life is different. My relationships are different. The way I look at things is different. And all of that is because something precious was almost taken away, and it's caused me to step back and look at all of the wonderful things that I have and feel and express gratitude mostly to people. The waiter who was nice and did an excellent job gets a big thank you. I think that gratitude has healed me in so many ways. And I'm grateful for Bellin Health. I had been a patient um, at Bellin for a couple of different procedures, and I'm thankful for all of you for your decision to be involved in the healthcare system, especially during this time. It's hard right now. And I want you, especially those of you who are on the front lines, to look at someone like me and realize on those horrible days when you have 5 deaths in one day, that you have people like me who owe everything to you, that you had significant wins as well. So thank you for what you've chosen to do, for the decisions that you made to go into healthcare.
Thank you, Natalie. Your story is just so incredible. And I've heard it before, but I cry every time I hear it. And I don't know if you've seen some of the comments coming in from people, but there's a lot of people just saying, you know, they have goosebumps and you're so strong, and so grateful for you. Your strength is truly incredible. Knowing you're able to be an advocate and share your experience with others is inspiring. You've just brought so much inspiration to us today, Natalie. And I think at a time where it has been tough the last couple of years dealing with everything COVID, it's so wonderful to be reminded of the human lives that we have the potential to touch every day. And that's so incredible. So I do want to invite people to put any questions or comments that you have in the chat. Please do that. Charles, I just want to bring you on one more time. Any parting thoughts on gratitude today, Charles?
I do have a couple, but mainly what I want to do is thank you for the story. Thank you for being part of our program, our day, and sharing everything about what you talked about was a walking demonstration, a living illustration of resilience, and easily, in this case, something where you could have turned to victimhood. This was done to me. And it's an illustration of what I was talking about earlier and how we code our situations and interpret is this thing of to go to gratitude and see still that every day of life is a blessing, even in the midst of the extreme adversity that you are experiencing, in and of itself is magical and amazing. So I think what you did, what you went through, how you dealt with it, the grace to go through it in that way, and to at the end be grateful and experience that. And then I love how you shared that gratitude, how you took it places, took it to people, passed on the gratitude, and encouraged, as I was saying before, that only leads to other people being more in that place too. So when we experience our gratefulness in our life that way, it gets stored every day that we are experiencing blessings, awe, joy, gratitude, just finding that life itself, being here, and the opportunity to have another day is a blessing to be grateful for. The way you captured that was astounding. And it gives us all the opportunity and the inspiration to see that what we experience can go in that way. And as a lifetime, we have a storage bank of great memories rather than victimhood. So I'm so happy for you to be with us today, very grateful, and want to express that to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity so much.
Well, thank you so much, Natalie. We just are in awe of you, and thank you for sharing that story with us to help inspire us and to also remind us just of the power that gratitude really can bring, and that we can do that too in our lives. We can pass on gratitude to those that have touched us and impacted us, and those people are going to benefit, and we're going to benefit as well. So thank you again for being here with us today. We're just really in awe of you. And for everyone else, thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this segment, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Thank you.